بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A very warm welcome to all our distinguished participants joining us today from Pakistan, Indonesia, and across different regions of the world. We are delighted to have your presence in today's international webinar on Islamic finance landscape in Indonesia, growth, regulations, and opportunities for global partnership. We will begin shortly, and kindly ensure your microphones remain muted throughout the session. And note, this is going to be a session webinar exclusively in English. So I request all of you to kindly type your questions in the chat box. Thank you. Or let's begin with this webinar details. So, dear participants, Indonesia represents one of the most dynamic and one of the rapidly evolving Islamic finance ecosystem globally. As the world's largest Muslim majority country, Indonesia has developed an increasingly sophisticated Islamic financial infrastructure encompassing Islamic banking, capital markets, Islamic microfinance, sustainable finance, Sukuk, Waqf, that is linked mechanism, and various blended finance solutions. So today's session will not only provide us with a valuable opportunity to understand Indonesia's remarkable journey, whereas also it will assist us to explore lessons, collaborations, and opportunities relevant for countries such as Pakistan, particularly in a special focus on the area of Islamic microfinance, financial inclusion, and topmost sustainable Islamic finance, which is a buzzword these days. It is now my distinct honor and privilege to introduce our esteemed keynote speaker, Dr. Khairun Nisa Musari, joining us from Indonesia. Dr. Musari is an internationally recognized scholar, researcher, and thought leader in the field of Islamic economics and finance. She currently serves as the Secretary of Indonesian Association of Islamic Economics for the Provincial Board of East Java, Indonesia, a position she has held since 2017 and contributed significantly to the advancement of Islamic economic through policy discourse in the region. Academically, she serves as the coordinator for the International Office at the Faculty of Islamic Economics and Business and is associated with the Department of Islamic Economics postgraduate program, Kia Haji Ahmad Siddiq State Islamic University in Indonesia. Her distinguished professional journey also includes serving as the Senior Specialist for Islamic Finance with the United Nations Development Programme, Indonesia, reflecting her practical contributions to the development of Islamic finance at both policy and institutional levels. Dr. Musari Research contributions span an impressive range of areas, including Sukuk, Waqf, Islamic microfinance, Islamic nanofinance is a new terminology for me, fiscal and monetary policy, circular economy, halal logistics, sustainable finance, climate finance, and blended Islamic financial models. Her pioneering work in areas such as Islamic nanofinance, Islamic helix, and perpetual sukuk has received notable international recognition. In recognition of her outstanding contributions, she has repeatedly been recognized among the top 300 most influential women in Islamic business and finance for multiple years and has honored under the Womani Signification and Womani Academia rankings. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Masuri. Thank you very much. Please, Masuri, without further ado, the podium is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sister Madiha. My voice is clear?
Yes, dear, it's
Okay.
perfectly clear. You're very much audible.
Yes, my voice is clear. I just want to confirm. Can I start my presentation?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Okay. This one, PowerPoint. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you Al Sadiq Institute for inviting me. Very happy because last month I visited the Lahore, came to University of Management and Technology, and this month, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, okay. PowerPoint.
Ma'am, you are very much audible. Please continue your presentation. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. In this in today, I would like to share about the overview of Islamic finance in Indonesia, the position of Islamic microfinance and Islamic nanofinance.
Ma'am, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt. Can you please enlarge your presentation?
Oh, wait.
If you can share the screen, maybe our coordinator can assist you in this regard if you want. Yes, wonderful. Now you have started screen sharing. Wonderful. Thank you, ma'am. Please proceed.
Yeah. Good evening for Indonesia and good afternoon for Pakistan. This is my third time interaction with the Pakistan, and it's my pleasure to share an overview of the Islamic finance landscape in Indonesia, particularly focusing on the position of Islamic microfinance and Islamic nanofinance with the broader financial ecosystem. Indonesia is currently one of the largest Muslim majority countries and with a rapidly growing Islamic financial sector. Despite its impressive growth, there remain important questions regarding inclusivity, accessibility, and financial justice, especially for ultra micro society or communities. And today I will discuss not only the institutional structure and performance of Islamic finance in Indonesia, but also how Islamic microfinance and nanofinance may contribute to inclusive and sustainable development. On this slide, I provide several academic and professional links for further communication and maybe collaboration. This includes my academic profiles, and I strongly welcome future academic cooperation, collaborative research, publication opportunities, and scholarly discussion related to Islamic finance, sustainable finance, suku, wakaf, and maybe Islamic nanofinance. Briefly, my academic and professional background combines research, institutional engagement, and policy-related experience. My research interest, like the moderator said before, my research interest mainly focus on suku, wakaf, sustainable finance, Islamic blended finance, circular economy, climate change, and Islamic microfinance and nanofinance. Yeah, in recent years, I have increasingly promoted the concept of Islamic helix, perpetual suku, and Islamic nanofinance as alternative models for sustainable, inclusive development. Today's presentation consists of three main agenda. Three main sections. First, I will explain the overview of Islamic finance in Indonesia, including Islamic banking, Islamic non-banking financial institution, and Islamic capital market. Second, we will discuss Islamic microfinance and its role as the backbone of the Indonesian economy, particularly to micro, small, medium enterprises. And third, I will elaborate on Islamic nanofinance as a hybrid economic model targeting ultra micro and financially excluded communities. In this first section, we begin with the general overview of Islamic finance in Indonesia. And this slide presents the classification of Islamic financial institutions in Indonesia. This is the formal Islamic financial institution. In Syariah banking institution, Islamic banking is similar, but Indonesia, most people say Syariah banking, not Islamic banking, but the meaning same. Islamic banking includes Syariah commercial banks, Syariah business units. Syariah business units is dual standard, dual system, because the holding in conventional and the structure in above in below the holding in Syariah. So we call in Indonesia, we call it as the Syariah business unit. Then Syariah rural banks. For Syariah non-banking financial institution can be divided through to three types: Islamic capital market, then the Syariah insurance guarantee, and pension fund sector. The third, the Syariah financing institutions, venture capital, microfinance institution, and other financial service companies. And this is the main indicator of Islamic banks. This is the last publication from the Financial Service Authority, OJK. In Indonesia, we call it OJK, the Financial Service Authority. We can see here that Islamic banking assets reach approximately almost 980 trillions. Among the three categories, Syariah commercial banks dominate the sector in terms of assets, financing, and third-party funds. But the number of Syariah rural banks is relatively high than Syariah commercial bank and business units, but their assets size remains comparatively small. This indicates that Islamic banking growth in Indonesia is still concentrated in larger institutional players, while smaller community-based institutions continue facing scalability challenges. Okay, this is table 3. We can see here this table demonstrates the performance growth in Islamic financial assets between 2024 and 25. The total Islamic financial asset increased from the over the 3,000 trillion, and Islamic capital market contributes the largest share, particularly sovereign suku. And we can see here in this table, Islamic banking and Islamic non-banking financial institutions also continue to grow steadily. And this is market share of Islamic financial asset. Although Islamic finance is growing rapidly, its market share remains relatively limited compared to conventional finance. The overall Islamic finance market share in Indonesia is approximately 12%, less than 12%. And among the sectors, the Islamic capital market shows the strongest penetration, while Islamic banking and non-bank sectors remain below 10%. And we can say this table demonstrates that Islamic and Indonesia still has enormous room for expansion in Islamic financial inclusion and market deepening. In Indonesian financial system, Islamic financial sector regulation is carried out with a dual financial system framework, where the conventional and Islamic system operate in parallel. This is, I think, the difference, the main difference, the significant difference with Pakistan. And in this table, the primary authorities for Islamic financial system, this slide explain the primary authorities governing the Islamic financial system in Indonesia. The Financial Service Authority, OJK, like I said before. OJK regulates and supervises financial institution. Bank Indonesia, the Central Bank of Republic of Indonesia, acts as the central bank responsible for monetary stability and macroeconomics management. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Finance plays a strategic role in fiscal policy and sovereign suku issuance. And for the National Syariah Board, we call it as DSN MUI, the National Syariah Board, Indonesian Ulama Council. In addition to financial regulators, Indonesia also has a unique religious authority structure through DSN MUI, DSN MUI, the National Syariah Board, Indonesian Ulama Council. The National Syariah Board issues fatwas related to Islamic financial products and practices. To ensure implementation, Islamic financial institutions also have Syariah Supervisory Boards, DPS, Syariah Supervisory Boards. And this governance model combines financial regulation with religious compliance mechanism, which is one of the distinctive features of Islamic finance in Indonesia. Now we move to the second section, Islamic microfinance and its relationship with the micro, small, medium enterprises Indonesia. You can see here, I believe in Pakistan, the description, the overview of micro, small, and medium enterprise maybe is similar between Indonesia and Pakistan. MSMEs play a significant role in Indonesia economic growth. 99% of all business units, micro, small, medium enterprise dominate Indonesia's economic structure. And we can divide it, the categories of micro, small, and medium enterprise, basically a group based on the amount of business capital at the time of establishment. If the business capital reach a maximum of 1 billion rupiah, excluding land and business premise, it is categorized as micro business. If more than 1 billion rupiah, up to 5 billion rupiah, we can classify as small business. Then when the capital exceeding 5 billion rupiah up to 10 billion rupiah, we can classify as medium business. More than 10 billion, yeah, we can categorize as the large business. Okay, this is the amount of micro, small, medium enterprises in Indonesia. If we divide into non-agriculture and fisheries micro, small, medium enterprises, and the second one as the agriculture and fisheries and micro, small, medium enterprises, we can see here micro enterprises or individual agriculture business. Yeah, the domination in the micro, small, medium enterprises in Indonesia is micro sector. This is the newest regulatory for the classification of micro, small, medium enterprises in Indonesia. This is the newest, similar with the previous slide, but this is based on or referring to Article 35 of government regulation. This is the classification based on the business capital and based on sales annual. Yeah, this is the financing based on type of usage and debtor group. We can see here that we can observe that consumption financing remains dominant. Meanwhile, micro, small, medium enterprises financing is still relatively limited compared to non-micro, small, medium enterprises. Yeah, the micro, small, medium enterprises less than the non. This raises an important question: to what extent has Islamic banking fulfilled its developmental and inclusive mission? Yeah, I think this is the big question if we see the table. And this is one reason why Islamic microfinance and nanofinance become increasingly relevant relevant. Yeah, this is the reason why microfinance and nanofinance in Islamic perspective become increasingly relevant. Now we move to the third section, Islamic nanofinance as a hybrid economic model for ultra micro scale people, communities or society. Yeah, Islamic nanofinance can be understood as a redefinition or extension of microfinance for the ultra poor, and its mission is not merely financing business activities, but also addressing emergency needs, preventing dependency of moneylenders, loan sharks, and supporting humanitarian concerns. Unlike formal banking, nanofinance is highly flexible and accessible for people without collateral, financial history, or stable income. I provide this table by compiling from my previous research. And yeah, this is the overview of Islamic nanofinance. This slide explains the operational characteristic of Islamic nanofinance. The funding source often come from philanthropy, Islamic social finance, grants, and corporate social responsibility also, and blended finance mechanism. Loan size are very small. Disbursement is extremely fast, and repayment periods are short term. Importantly, nanofinance emphasize interest-free or Qardul Hasan approach, especially for vulnerable communities. And this makes nanofinance socially oriented rather than purely commercially driven. In Indonesia, Islamic nanofinance strongly overlaps with the ultra micro. In Indonesia, there are some programs with the target informal business, women entrepreneurs also, and communities excluded from commercial banking access. The beneficiaries are often economically active, but financially invisible within the formal banking system. Therefore, nanofinance can function as a bridge between social finance and commercial finance. This slide compares nanofinance practice in India, Thailand, Indonesia, Pakistan. I presented this research last month in Lahore, but today I would like to focus to Indonesia. And we can see here the credit needs, most of credit to business, but some institutions provide also for emergency. And interest rate, yes, interest rate. Because of that, I put Islamic with the symbol because we not all institution, not all is financial institution Indonesia comply with Sharia, and but the interest rate, most of them more than 0.5% per week. And I took this figure illustrates the integration between Islamic commercial finance, Islamic social finance, refer to Ascaria. He is the senior researcher in Bank Indonesia, the Central Bank of Republic of Indonesia. I took the figure, and you can see here, this is the the overview, the stakeholders, and the description, the authority in Islamic financial ecosystem. The model combines zakat, wakaf, sadaqah, and commercial instrument within one ecosystem. This integration is important because poverty alleviation cannot rely solely on commercial financing mechanism, and social finance instrument can absorb risk and support vulnerable beneficiaries before they become bankable and feasible for banking institution. And I took this figure from my book chapter with Abdi Smolo. He is this is also almost similar with the previous figure. We would like to map the stakeholders of the hybrid economic model. Hybrid economic model is similar with Islamic blended finance, because the philosophy of this model, how to integrate Islamic social finance and Islamic commercial finance. And this is the stakeholder for the ecosystem of Islamic blended finance or hybrid economic model for Islamic finance. And this is these are some proposed the Islamic hybrid economic model. I took them also from my previous research, from my book chapters. And the point is how to integrate Islamic social finance, Islamic philanthropy with Islamic commercial finance. This is the proposed Islamic financing hierarchy for ultra micro scale people. In Thailand, we can find the nano finance institution and also the Pico finance institution. Those institutions are regulated by Central Bank of Thailand. But maybe in Islamic finance terminology, most of us rare to find the terminology like Islamic nano finance, Islamic Pico finance. But in as long as I know, Thailand by the Central Bank of Thailand regulates the nano finance institutions, also the Pico finance institution. This is the reason why I put the terminology nano finance, Pico finance in this figure. The important message from this figure, the vulnerable communities, they do not need for the mudarobah, musyarakah, but maybe the ideal contract for them is Cordul Hasan. Uh, this financing hierarchy, di slide propose the Islamic financing hierarchy for ultra micro communities, and this figure creates a more human and sustainable pathway toward financial inclusion. I believe for it because in Islam also Qardul Hasan is the important contract. We can find the Qardul Hasan as the specific in hadith. And this is some references from my research regarding the nano finance particularly. Okay, finally, that Islamic nano finance in Indonesia maybe still not get big attention, but as Islamic scholars, particularly in Islamic economics, I believe we have responsibility to sound, to echo the Islamic nano finance because not most formal financial institution do not give attention for the communities under micro. So this is not only about Islamic just Islamic, but I believe this is the humanitarian mission for us. I think just it from me. Maybe there is a question. If I can answer, I can answer. This is, I think, just for sharing, and we can discuss about the issue I presented before.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mosori, for such an insightful and really very intellectually enriching session. And this presentation has really, helped me a lot in a sense that I have gone through this nano finance, Islamic nano finance in particular, and the Islamic helix concept, which you have referred in your research work as well. I have few questions for you. In the meantime, if our participants have any questions, they can raise their hands, or if they like to type it, then they can type it in the chat box. Okay. Regarding your research work, I have few questions considering the sustainability challenge and nano finance and traditional microfinance. Dr. Mosori, you have highlighted Islamic nano finance as a solution for the ultra micro communities. I request you if you can share what is your opinion that what fundamentally differentiates nano finance from traditional microfinance. In particular, the term of its outreach, risk management, and financial stability. Ma'am.
Yes, thank you for the question, Sister Madiha. Please allow me to say hi to my colleague from the Indonesian Association of Islamic Economists. I see Sister Dr. Tika, Prof. Tika Widyastuti. She is from Airlangga University, Surabaya. She is the professor for Islamic social finance. And
Wonderful.
I see also the name in Indonesian language like my friend Arif Subhan. He is a newcomer in Karachi, maybe a week. He moved to Karachi. I would like to say hi to my brother and sister. Thank you for attending this forum. I believe you can also maybe to add my explanation for the audience. Okay, Sister Madiha, your question, the fundamental between microfinance and nanofinance.
Nanofinance,
Yes.
exactly.
In Indonesia, there are communities who still not reached by formal Islamic financial institution, conventional and also Islamic financial institutions. Yes, we have zakat institution, zakat, wakaf, sadaqah, infak institution in Indonesia. But there are communities in Indonesia who they cannot be categorized as the beneficiary from the zakat, infak, sedekah, wakaf institutions, but they also cannot be reached by the formal financial institutions, and Islamic finance institution still not available for them. And you can, if you remember my presentation before,
Yes.
the newest regulation which define the classification of micro, small, and medium enterprises, they are still high for most communities. So what I would like to say, there are community, they are in under micro enterprises, they are under micro, under micro enterprises, under microfinance. The needs of the money is under microfinance classification from the government of Indonesia, and Islamic finance still not available for helping them. But yes, like I said before, we have zakat, infak, sedekah, wakaf institution, but the institution also still not reach for those communities. Because of that, I have inspiration from India, from Thailand, because they have nanofinance institution formally. The terminology is nanofinance. The institutions help the nano societies, nano communities under micro. And this is the reason for me to socialize about the nanofinance. Yeah, like that.
Okay, as you have mentioned, your colleagues who are in Karachi. So on behalf of Al Sadiq Institute, extend a really warm and special, heartfelt welcome to all of your colleagues and those who are in Karachi. It is really an honor for us that you have joined us, and we warmly welcome you to this intellectual exchange and collaborative dialogue. And going further, I would like to share that you are our guest. So we would like to have, if you are warmly welcome to our institute anytime. And you will be our guest, special guest over there in Karachi, and Maulana Masar and all our team members will be honored to serve you. So it will be an honor for us. So beside these, I have another question for you that is regarding women and nanofinance. While going through your presentation, I have seen that you are quite interested and you have focused on women-centered nanofinance models. Am I right?
Yes.
So, can you please share how a woman-led nanofinance initiative can contribute to poverty reduction and financial empowerment? Specifically, if we take Pakistan in consideration, if we like to replicate the same model which you have in Indonesia.
Yes, Sister Madiha. Uh, yes, women in Indonesia, if I can say, is the backbone for the microeconomics, small economics, including nano finance, nano enterprises. Uh, uh, some research, some studies from Indonesia show that women, apologize for the men, because the studies indicated that women more honestly, have more responsibility to pay the debt,
Agreed.
and yeah, something like that.
Yes, I
Uh,
agree.
and this is the reason, and in the fact, the practice in Indonesia also, bank institution uh, uh, if use the community mechanism for giving the debt, the loan, uh, by using the woman communities. I never found the story from banking institution for giving the community with the name man community, but woman community, woman empowerment is the familiar programs in Indonesia. So because this is the normally mechanism using women in Indonesia, yeah, I think this is the easier if we use nano finance by using the women communities.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, you have mentioned that women are more responsible in terms of their loans and all these things. So I would love to mention that in Pakistan, there are few microfinance institutions which have extended loan exclusively to women. And you can't believe their infection ratio or the
Madiha?
NPL
Yeah.
percentage is barely 1%. So that is something that shows that, without an offense to all our male colleagues over here, but it shows that women are more responsible in terms of repaying their loan. So I have worked over this model, so I also agree with you in this point. So going further, I would like to know that you have promoted the word of concept of Islamic helix, and Islamic blended finance. You have promoted it. So, can you please briefly explain how this model practically integrates Islamic commercial finance with our social finance mechanism?
Yeah, I would like share again. Yeah, yeah, the fundamental concept for this mechanism for the scam like this, how integrate commercial finance and social finance. You can see here,
Yes, I can
this
see.
is, yes, this is banking, capital market, money market are as the commercial finance. And
Agreed.
the below, Baitul Mal, Zakat institution, social microfinance institution. This is the social finance institution, social finance. So how to integrate the commercial and the social finance or philanthropy, Islamic philanthropy. This is the picture from the senior research from Bank Indonesia, the Central Bank of Indonesia. I would like to share this picture just as the generic model. How in Indonesia, all stakeholders can sit together to manage, to coordinate, to cooperate, how to integrate commercial and social finance. Because in the fact, in Indonesia, if we just only commercial finance, the institution just only finding the profit. But if we just only use the social finance institutions, the fact shows that the realization of zakat, infak, sedekah, wakaf in Indonesia less than the potential of fund. This is the effort for us. Maybe we have to offer another model, and this is I believe yeah, we can try the Islamic blended finance as the new alternative, not only commercial work by itself, but also how to integrate the commercial and social finance. And this is the generic model also for the hybrid economic model or blended finance. I just would like to map the stakeholders. Also, I put a provider of digital technologies in this picture. Yeah, this is the scheme, how to the stakeholders, the authorities in social finance and the commercial finance, particularly from the central government, how to, and I believe Pakistan in 2028 will implement all of the
2027,
ecosystem will free from riba. And I think
inshallah.
Pakistan can be a driver for this model, can be a driver for the spirit of microfinance, Islamic microfinance, Islamic nanofinance. And you know, there is the first provider for Islamic nanofinance in Pakistan, Hakim. The application name Hakim. Yeah, I have to look for in Google to remember. But yes, nanofinance also established in Pakistan. I found one provider. The name of application inshallah Hakim, Hakeem. Yeah, maybe this is there is a guest also from Indonesia, Brother Robah from Indonesian Association of Islamic of Association, the Indonesian Association of Islamic Economists from East Java Province.
You're
Maybe there
welcome.
is
Brother, you're welcome.
Sister Tika, Brother Roba, Brother Arif Subhan, the moderator say hi for you, say greeting for you. Welcome to this forum. Maybe another question. Apologize if my English is not very good.
No, not at all. It's really a pleasure to hear from you and to share your experience, your thoughts, and to learn from them. So, just last two questions, and after that, I'll wind up the session. Okay. That is regarding green Sukuk. You have mentioned perpetual green Sukuk.
Yes.
So, I was going through this climate resilience and all these things. In terms of this perpetual green Sukuk and the Islamic blended finance model, which you have shared and that works in Indonesia. I'm trying to understand. In fact, my audience will also like to understand how can this blended Islamic finance can contribute towards this climate resilience and sustainable development financing. That is very important in emerging economies.
Yeah, thank you, Sister Madiha. The problem for Islamic finance with the orientation to inclusive, sustainable development, climate change, etc. They are come from the expensive cost source. Because of that, we have to find the source for from the low-cost fund. Social finance, Islamic social finance is the low-cost fund for us, for Muslim. We don't have any responsible to repay the zakah, the wakaf, because it's the right for the mustahik, for the beneficiaries. There is not any responsibility for us to get the money for us again. It's the right of Allah. This is the law for Islamic countries. And this is also the reason I believe that how to make financial engineering with the better scheme, with the better model from the low-cost fund. The history, like suku, the originality of suku, the origin of suku, I mean, in the past, the term, the instrument name, the name of instrument, Esam. Esam in the past, Esam is the first Islamic securitization in the Islamic finance history. And the wisdom from Esam is how to make the instrument, the Islamic finance instrument today, not give the burden for the next leader, the Islamic leader in the future. You know, in Al-Quran said, don't let the next generation after you in the weak situation, in the weak iman, in the weak knowledge, in the weak physique, in the weak education, something like that. And in Islamic macroeconomics, the point of don't let the next generation, don't let the leader of Islamic countries in the future with the burden of the debt. Because of that, I believe suku maybe today is the good instrument, but actually suku still have a problem because suku still will be a burden for the next generation, for the next leader to pay the fund to government, to the investor, something like that. Because of that, perpetual suku, blended finance, hybrid economic model, there are some alternative models. Maybe we can offer to industry, Islamic finance industry, to the government, to practitioners about how to make the scam from the low cost fund. I think this is the point.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, I would particularly like to extend a very gracious welcome to our respected participants from Indonesia, your colleagues. Though we are geographically apart, but we are truly honored that we are hosting you virtually from Karachi, Pakistan, and we deeply value this opportunity for this cross border learning, collaboration, and academic engagement. Uh, Thank you, Ms. Masuri. I'm really very thankful to you that you have very patiently responded to my questions, though I have tried to learn from your experience a lot. And it is truly a very, you have embellished with your, personal experience as well as examples. So I'm really very honored to host you today. So, as we conclude our today's session, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all our distinguished participants and topmost my distinguished speaker, Dr. Harunissa Masuri, for generously sharing her, valuable insights, experience, and international experience with us. Uh, today's this discussion has not only deepened our understanding about Indonesia's Islamic finance landscape, but has also, opened avenues for meaningful cross-border learning, collaboration, and institutional partnership. I would also like to sincerely thank our participants for joining us and contributing to this today's webinar. We hope that this webinar has added value to your professional and academic understanding of Islamic finance and financial institutions. I request all of you to stay connected with the social media handles of Al Sadiq. And on behalf of the organizers, thank you once again for your participation. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, As-Sadiq Institute. See you again.
Thank you, dear. Stay connected. I'll share my number with you, and I would like to personally invite you that whenever you are in Karachi, you should come to my place, and Al Sadek will be honored to host you.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.